Carrie Brownstein, you're working on the final season of Portlandia right now, correct?
Correct.
What are you going to miss the most about the show?
I think the collaboration with Fred Armisen, my co-star, and Jonathan Kreisel, who's one of the co-creators and writer and director, and just working with the cast and crew that we've had for the last 8 years, whether it's the other writers or Kyle MacLachlan, who always comes back and plays the mayor, or Steve Buscemi, who we have on the show or who directs. We've just created like this wonderful coterie of people that I won't get to see every year.
Mm. And what's your favorite part about working with Fred?
The way he surprises me and still makes me laugh. He never ceases to amaze me in how, like, the depth of his comedic talents. He's pretty amazing. He's a great guy.
Yeah. And I remember, like, last time I spoke with Fred, he was saying how, like, much he didn't just enjoy working with you, but how much he valued you as a friend and so a friend he can work with. Does that go both ways, Carrie?
Of course. Yeah, it would be so cruel of me to say absolutely not. Yes, I mean, I think what we've been really lucky to have is a show that was created as an extension of a friendship. The friendship already existed, and so I think our fondness for each other is really exemplified in the show and all the sketches, and that kind of heartfelt, vibe and the earnestness just permeates all the sketches. So yes, it goes both ways.
No, that's good. And I guess, like, if it was something that was around before you started working on the show, you probably have more confidence that it's something that will continue after doing the show, because the show's just, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, wait, you froze a little bit.
Did I?
Oh, there you are.
You're back now? Okay.
You're good now. Yeah. Yeah.
What's been your favorite relationship on the show between a character that you've played and Fred's played?
I think Peter and Nance are this very kind of syrupy couple that they're so intertwined. And it's really, Fred and I really like to explore the different ways that people kind of perform couplehood. And Peter and Nance are just one of those couples where you don't know where one ends and the other begins. And so I think it's just been an interesting way of, like, thinking about intimacy and thinking about, I don't know, closeness and how people go through a life together. So it's really fun to write for them because the smallest little thing will throw them off and hurt each other. Like this year we have a sketch where one of them gets upset because they're only following each other on Instagram, and then one of them starts to follow one other person. But it's so easy to create conflict for them.
Mm. Which relationship on the show do you think was the healthiest sort of couple? It can be a friendship or a romantic one.
Well, that one's pretty healthy, and I think the Fred and Carrie one is relatively healthy, even though they're a more gullible version of us. And then there's this couple, Kath and Dave, and I think even though they might seem really obnoxious to other people, they're both amped up in the same way. So it's like Kath is always at 10 and Dave's always at 10. And I guess that just works for them. So that's probably pretty healthy. Not to anyone else, but to them, it seems really solid.
Yeah. The Carrie and Fred in the show, how similar are they to you and Fred?
Well, like I said, they're a little sillier, maybe more guileless, and just, yeah, I mean, they're more naive than Fred and I. But that's, I think, more fun to play because you can explore things in a different way when you're operating from this kind of naivete, and they just go through life just always seeking. And I do that too, but from a much more skeptical perspective. So I think this kind of optimism that the characters of Fred and Carrie have it's really fun to play with.
Mm. In season 6, what do you think your most sort of different sketch was from anything you've done before?
Would you mean season 7, the most recent one, or season 6?
Yeah, sorry, season 7.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I know at this point there's a lot. Let's see, season 7. Well, there were a few. I mean, we did this weird one. We did some kind of genre pieces. Like there was this one called Massage Chair with Nina and Lance. And it was kind of, we filmed it sort of like Misery. And that was a little bit odd, just to kind of explore something that was dark and not necessarily silly. I think we doubled down on the absurdity a few times. There was, we also did this Hunks sketch, which I thought was, we had this like big kind of West Side Story moment in the middle. So those, I think, we always want to like stretch and push ourselves as writers and performers. So anytime we get to do something like that, it's really fun.
Yeah, I sort of like the Hunks thing was fun, how it sort of was a commentary on how sort of nerds were in, and then Hunks started doing some of the things nerds do. So now nerds are pushed to the side again.
I know. There has to be a new Revenge of the Nerds. They have to figure it out again because hunks are back.
Yeah.
It's kind of true. You like Channing Tatum. I mean, he does everything. He's taking over.
Yeah, no, that's good. What do you think with the sketches and the things like that, was the storyline that you thought was the best in season 7, or the one that sort of meant the most to you?
I thought a really grounded one was one of the wraparounds. It was this passenger rating and Uber passenger rating, and Steve Buscemi directed that one. And I don't know, I think that tackled a couple things. One was just the kind of sharing economy, and we always are using these services, and I don't know, I think we're so aware of how we're seen all the time, and it's basically about a group of people that realize that you can check what your rating is on Uber. And then the character of Carrie is thrust into this very uncomfortable position with kind of a right-wing Uber driver played by Steve Buscemi. And I thought it was well executed. And also, I don't know, I do think there's kind of this vulnerability to sort of, we're always interfacing with strangers. Like we trust them so much. It's just like, we trust this rating system that could be completely arbitrary. And I don't know, there's just this enhanced kind of vulnerability that we operate with in life now, where it's a leap of faith to, let someone come over to your house and deliver your food, or to like repair something with like TaskRabbit, or you get in a car with someone that has not been vetted even for their driving skills. So it was kind of just, it was interesting to sort of explore that world and take it to kind of an extreme level. So I was really happy with that through line.
Another thing you guys sort of tackled throughout the course of the season was the issue of men and masculinity and feminism and all these sorts of things. And to sort of open that theme, pretty much you and Fred get to, you sing a song, What About Men? As a musician, how fun is that when you get to incorporate your sort of music world with the show?
I think it's one of our strengths as a show, because Fred and Jonathan and I all come from a place where music was such a formative experience for us, either as fans or as musicians ourselves. And so I think even from the beginning with Dream of the 90s up through the What About Men anthem, it's just been something that I think plays to our strengths and our interests. So yeah, I wrote the lyrics for that and collaborated with John and this guy Devin on the music. And I really liked it because masculinity was definitely a theme in season 7. And I think that's one of the other sketches I'm really proud of, because it just felt very of the moment. And it's still sort of a theme that's continued on. I mean, we're always inundated with just sort of straight white men starting to feel a little bit unsure of their place as we move forward, and that sort of the social structure changes. But we didn't want to make them terrible people. We wanted, I think a lot of the discomfort comes from a place of earnestness and comes from a place of actually like genuine anxiety. But it was pretty fun to put Fred in that weird bald cap and sing that song. Yeah,
it's like a theme that's like, yeah, as you said, like just ongoingly relevant in, like, with Wonder Woman and women only screens and that and stuff. Like I've been reading just as much in the news about this now, and you obviously wrote, and like this episode aired long before any of that. So, nah. With you sort of talked about like the earnestness of the characters with those things, but also it runs through the course of the show. What value do you think earnestness adds to comedy?
I think for us, we want to create a show where people feel like they can immerse themselves in it, that it feels like an invitation to participate and to see themselves in the show, in the themes, in the characters. So instead of sort of operating from a place where we're pointing our finger kind of, there's, along with like cruelty, you sort of feel like you're pushing people away, and we want to kind of be approaching it with like an open hand, like kind of come join us. So I think that just allows people to take a step forward and feel like they're part of the show. And so that, I think, is what makes it, I don't know, I think that just helps kind of seal like the tone of the show, because it doesn't feel like, I think the audience doesn't feel like targets. They feel in on the joke. And it's kind of more about having a conversation about these things instead of saying, well, this is what's funny. It's like, we don't want to be prescribing what's funny. We want to sort of be observational and conversational about it.
That's sort of like a thing with Portlandia. It's not really like a sketch show, which is really driven by punchlines all the time, and like a set up punchline sort of thing. When you are in the writer's room, or when you're performing as well, what are you looking for to drive the comedy?
I think our most successful sketches start with a relatable idea, but we try to steer away from high concept, because I think concept is funny as like a sentence, like, oh, I have this idea, but we try to marry that with character. Because I think what does differentiate us from other sketch shows is that we try to build out these characters so that they feel like their lives don't exist just in the 2 minutes of a sketch, but that there's sort of a world of the show. So yeah, so I think it starts with like a relatable idea that we try to marry with two interesting characters. And then ideally it goes to a place that's absurd, and then even better if it gets to a surreal place. So that's our ideal way of writing. It doesn't always work out like that, but I think our best sketches kind of follow those guidelines.
Do you have a favorite line that your characters said? It could be like, if it's outside of season 7, feel free to like answer from whenever in the series you want.
I think there was I think in season 5 or 6, we did this sketch about male feminists. And there was this line where I think it was not me, but these guys were like, we did it. We solved feminism, which I thought was pretty good. Ao River was a line that I improvised early on that I still love. Like anything that people say back to me feels like a success. Yeah. So whether it's cacao or Ao River, put a bird on it, like it's so surreal and strange to become part of this parlance that other people are speaking with. That's very exciting. So when
you've gotten Emmy nominations, what has that meant for the show? Because it really it's really been something that at the beginning I can't remember in season 1 if you got any nominations, but it's definitely, you've grown into a show that's just consistently every year received Emmy nominations, particularly when they introduced the sketch category. So what's that been like, that sort of recognition from a show that I doubt was designed to be an Emmy nominated show?
Yeah, we certainly did not go in with that directive, like we're going to make an important show that's going to get Emmy nominations. Our goal was always to make a good show that people felt a fondness for. And I think we don't have a ton of viewers compared to other shows, but we have very diehard fans. I think it's just very validating for us that we've been able to maintain a certain quality. And I mean, we always feel lucky. I think we've always felt very grateful to be able to do this show, and then Emmy nominations just add to that gratitude. So it's just about us not taking it for granted. That it just helps us kind of go forward feeling really lucky to do what we do.
Mm. What stage are you up to in season 7? Are you writing it? Are you acting it? Yeah, are you shooting it yet? What?
So this will be season 8. I know it's confusing.
Sorry, I know. I'm in my head. I know a lot of shows that ended in season 7, so I'm just like.
No, it's okay. Maybe you're just letting us know we should have ended in season 7. This is our last season, but okay. So season 8, we actually start tomorrow. Wow. So we've been writing for the last like 10 weeks, and then the last week we've been up in Portland in pre-production. But tomorrow we start shooting. So I'm ready for the long haul for the next couple months.
What are you sort of looking to get out of that final season?
I mean, I think our goal is always the same, which is just to make something funny and surprising and a little bit innovative. The good thing about sketch is you don't have to tie everything up. This is not Lost or Sopranos or Mad Men. Not all the characters have to die or get pregnant or get married. Although we joked about having every single one do all those things, but instead I think we can just kind of approach it thematically and think about like, well, what is a nice sort of like end, like a bookend to what we started out with. So we started out with this like dream of the 90s, as if talking about these places that people lived in that felt very idyllic or sort of aimed for a utopia. And I think as in the 8 years since we made that show, we've realized that like you can't exist in this bubble, you know, and that like there's definitely anxiety that's kind of encroached as just real world problems have kind of, you know, stepped on that idealism. So we are ending, I think, with a little bit of anxiety permeating a lot of the sketches, which I think is okay. I think it's still going to be funny, but if there's an underlying theme this year, it's definitely one of, okay, well, maybe the dream of the 90s is dead. So that's how we're going to go out. Really positive. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite sort of behind the scenes moment from the show?
I don't know if there's like one in particular, but I think there's, well, I guess 1 year actually we were shooting under the Burnside Bridge. So Portland, the east and west side of the city is divided by the Willamette River, and there's like 11 bridges that cross it. One of them is the Burnside Bridge, and underneath it is this giant skate park. And it's very rough. Like the skaters there, not all, you know, it's not like clean cut, like Orange County, like kids. It's like some of them are like a little more rough hewn, and occasionally they're homeless. And it was just, you know, so we had them as background, and they were just skating all over the place. Then Fred and I were playing cops, so we had real cops there too. And it was just this interesting amalgamation of just like these kind of outlaw skaters, the police, and then this like scrappy film crew. And everyone was kind of getting along, and Fred and I just were sitting in the cop car thinking like, we could never do this anywhere else. Like there's not a time in New York City where you're gonna film in a real cop car and see the cop whose cop car it is talking to the skaters just casually. Like there's a lot of moments like that behind the scenes in Portland that feel very special, and I think have really been what makes the show look different and feel different. Because we shoot entirely on location. So there's always something weird happening behind the scenes.
Mm. What are you going to miss most about being in Portland?
Well, I'm talking to you from my house here, and I lived here actually before we began the show. I grew up in the Northwest. So I'll miss this version of Portland where I get to treat it like kind of behave like a tourist, because we shoot on location, I'm always visiting people's houses. I feel like I've seen like 300 Portland homes. I've seen so many businesses. I get to talk to people all the time when we are shooting at their restaurant or shop or home. So I'll kind of I feel like I have the key to the city right now. And that's gonna go away. But this will always feel a little bit like home to me, even though I live most of the time in LA now. I feel like it's what feels, the most like home.
Mm. And I'm going to be speaking with Fred in about 40 minutes. Do you have a good question for me to ask him?
Yeah. Ask Fred about his new car.
Okay.
And ask Fred, ask him why he thinks, why the weirdos are his favorite characters. Why he really
are
yeah.
not.
Yes, the weirdos are his favorite characters, and they're like these goth characters. And he always mentions that they're his favorite characters in his favorite sketch, and I just want to know why. Okay. Why he relates. It's like he relates to the monster, like the dark side all the time.
Yeah.
So get to the bottom of that.
I will. Okay. We'll try to crack that.
Okay.
Crack that mystery. What do you think? What's next for you, Carrie? What are you going to do after Portlandia?
I'm developing another show, and that information will come out pretty soon. And I'm going to do more directing other TV shows, and I am directing a film called Fairy Godmother for MGM, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, I think writing, directing, producing is sort of the world that I want to keep going for and working within. I kind of love the behind the scenes stuff. It's really rewarding. So.
Oh, nice. Are you going to do any more music, Carrie? What are you?
Yeah, at some point, I think slowly Slater-Kinney are writing when we have time. All of us are busy, and obviously filming a show it's hard to do anything else, let alone write an album. But I think once we came back and started playing music in 2015, it felt like the story of Slater-Kinney was going to continue. So I think it will, but maybe not at a really expedited pace.
Yeah. That's fine. What with the just coming back to what you're saying about Fred with the weirdos, are you not a huge fan of the weirdos? Do you not like play like?
No, I do like playing the weirdos. I just think it's funny that like the characters that Fred related to and loves the most are sort of these like monsters, like this kind of Addams family. I mean, it's not surprising in other ways. He can tell you about the actual like tombstones that he had brought into his house for his yard. I just find it like, I think that to me, like there's something that obfuscates and like sort of covers up like the character about the weirdos. Like we're all in this like white face makeup and long wigs. So it feels a little like Halloween-y to me. And like, it's harder to sort of get to the heart of who they are. And I do like that contrast, but he really loves it. So yeah, we wouldn't do anything that we didn't like, but I just think he will name those, like he's like fighting for them. He's like championing them.
Yeah. Would it be better for me to ask him why the weirdos are his favorite characters, or ask him who his favorite characters are and see if he says the weirdos?
You should do the latter.
The latter?
And then you can say, Carrie told me you'd say that.
Yes.
Unless he surprises you, and then I'm wrong, and then I'm just wrong.
Yeah. Should I then tell him that Carrie thought you would say the weirdos?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's a plan, Carrie. What if you were to summarize to wrap up? If you were to summarize Portlandia in one sentence, how would you summarize the show?
I would say it's a show about people's relationship to where they live, and it explores good intentions that often turn out bad.
Okay. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for talking with us about Portlandia again this year. All the best of luck with the Emmys and with your final season. I believe it will be season 8.
That's right, Matt. Yeah. It's season 8. Thank you for talking to me. Have a good rest of your day.
No worries. You too. Bye.
Okay, bye.